The DCEU is one of the most contentious movie franchises in recent history. There are some people who believe that they are flawed but ultimately really ambitious movies that are doing and saying a lot. That they're more than just popcorn flicks, unlike certain other franchises. Other people contend that these are shameless cash grabs that are trying desperately to catch up to a series of movies as quickly as possible without any of the work that really went into making those franchises successful. And while I think that there are certain arguments that can be made about the attempted themes in something like Batman vs. Superman or Man of Steel, which could be interesting with some script reworks and a hefty amount of changes. There are certainly really good examples of the shortcuts Warner Brothers and DC are using that kind of reveal that their efforts are more about catching up to Disney and Marvel as opposed to really producing quality content. Suicide Squad is definitely an example of this. Content warning. This video will contain references and images of violence, racism, the sexualization of people assigned female at birth, cursing, and the 2016 Suicide Squad movie. Also, this review is going to be super long. If any of those things are offensive to you, I get that, but I skip out on this one. Thank you. This review will contain spoilers for Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Harry Potter. Dumbledore dies in the end, and Snape was a double agent the entire time, as well as an incel. If you do not wish to have the movie spoiled for you, I don't know, man. The movie's been out for 5 years. Watch it and then come back to the video. Also, this review will be of the superior, if still flawed, extended cut of Suicide Squad. I could review the theatrical cut, but this one was made by actual movie makers and not edited by a fucking movie trailer company. We open on the prison where we front load a lot of exposition. We introduce Will Smith as Deadshot, and the guards beat the hell out of him for a while. Then we skip over to Harley Quinn, played by the lovely Margot Robbie. We sexualize her a lot in this movie, and don't get me wrong, she's gorgeous and probably the most fun character that we get in the movie, but it's still pretty uncomfortable. She is also being tormented by some guards, and then we skip over to Amanda Waller, who is played by Viola Davis. Waller is trying to put together a team of criminals that she can theoretically control as a metahuman insertion team. We get some more exposition, including literal video game stat screens. Will Smith is a contract killer with a daughter. Amanda apparently tips off Batman for some reason, and he confronts Deadshot when he's right there in front of his daughter. Presumably because Batman has, and always will be, a dramatic bitch. Then we cut to a new scene where we explain Harley Quinn's backstory. Everyone knows this by now. She's a psychiatrist who treated and then fell in love with the Joker. She helps him escape. It's all good fun. They become the king and queen of crime, do some crime stuff. Joker tries to pimp her off to someone, and then shoots the guy who refuses. I'm not sure if he shot him because he was jealous of the man's lust towards Harley, or because the man didn't sleep with Harley, but it's the Joker. He's not supposed to make sense. Then we introduce Captain Boomerang, who is criminally, unintended, underused in this movie. He's a lot of fun, but he gets very little to do realistically. Ezra Miller's Flash stops him from robbing a bank. We introduce, and I have to stress that I'm using the movie's words and not mine, the pyrokinetic homeboy, Chato Santana, which is weird and very racialized to me. He apparently incinerated a group of prisoners in the yard. Then we're introduced to Waylon Jones, the killer Croc, and the guards feed him a raw goat, which seems weird and dehumanizing. Even Waller in the movie comments on this.
He looked like a monster, so they treated him like a monster.
Finally, we're introduced to Dr. June Moon, the Enchantress. She is apparently an archaeologist that is possessed with some kind of super witch. Amanda Waller is forcing the witch to work for her by keeping her heart in a briefcase that only she has access to and threatening to destroy it if the Enchantress doesn't behave. This exposition section ends with two of the Pentagon people that Waller is speaking to saying,
"You want to put our national security in the hands of witches, gangbangers, and crocodiles."
Don't forget about the Joker's girlfriend.
which is also pretty racialized. It separates Harley out from gangbangers, which is really weird because she's a literal gangbanger in this movie. She and the Joker are coded as gangbangers. That just seems a little strange to me. Also, this is kind of important because I'm going to have to bring it up later. At this point, we're literally less than 20 minutes into the movie, and we've had literally 7 pop songs already. It's kind of like someone took their Spotify playlist and decided that's how the soundtrack should be done. We introduce Rick Flag, who is a colonel in the military. It's very clumsily explained that he's in love with Dr. Moon and will therefore do anything that Amanda Waller wants, as long as she is safe. Which is pretty stupid, honestly. Waller is presenting this information to the Pentagon, I guess, or some military people who have control over the entirety of the military. It seems like the Pentagon, I don't know. And they still doubt that this is a good idea because it's not. But as a demonstration, she forces the Enchantress to go steal some secret files from Tehran, which seems incredibly illegal and like it could cause a bunch of wars or an international incident or something. But hey, what do I know? We spend a bunch more time introducing Waller and Flag to the squad individually, which seems like a bunch of scenes that could be cut, honestly. Like we could have just condensed that all into one scene where they meet them all together. We do learn that El Diablo, Chato Santana, has devoted himself to pacifism. He doesn't want to hurt anyone anymore, which in any other movie might create an interesting dynamic between the hyper-violent sociopaths and this guy who used to be sociopathic, but is now, and again, this pun is intended, just chillin'. We show off Deadshot's amazing ability to shoot real good. He makes a demand facing Flag about him getting his freedom and custody of his daughter, but he then reveals that he knows that Waller is the one that is in charge. This scene also has another pop song, but it's actually a pretty good scene. I wish we got more scenes like this all of the time instead of the Deadshot Macarena scenes that we get later in the movie. Joker, played by Jared Leto, is informed that Harley is going to be moved and plans to help her escape, and blackmails a guard that ordered Deadshot and Harley tortured in the first two music video scenes that we had. They make a deal. A lot of people really shit on Jared Leto's performance here, but I don't think it's that bad. I think that he has a very good Joker laugh going for him, and he has an affectation that really works for him.
I could tell you meant that.
The grill and the tattoos are a bit much for me, but this is a new modern Joker. The 1940s Joker is out. I think it's fair that he would adopt to one degree or another with the times. His dialogue does kind of suck, but everyone's dialogue in this movie sucks. Enchantress escapes and finds out that Waller has her brother in a jar in her office, I guess, and releases him into some poor dude that was just avoiding COVID by washing his hands. The brother starts murdering people in the subway, and they call in Amanda Waller's team. We get yet another pop song. And I want to say, I do like all of the songs in this movie, but they don't necessarily fit with the movie. But I'll get to that a little bit later. They inject everyone in the squad with some super neat nanite bombs, and the blackmailed security guard passes Harley a phone with the Joker's new contact information. The Joker, meanwhile, breaks into the bomb designer's lab and kidnaps him so that he can disable Harley's bomb and help her escape. They try to get Enchantress to stop the guy who is wrecking the shit out of everything, but this was Enchantress's plan the entire time, and she escapes. Amanda stabs her heart several times, but her bro gives her a boon to stabilize her. She speaks in some non-English language, which is totally fine, but that changes later in the movie for no reason. Enchanty summons a big set of gears that make a magic Avengers blue rift in the sky over the city, and they start destroying military vehicles. We get another pop song while we get everyone into the same place finally and introduce the party to one another. We're only 45 minutes in. Dear God, the pacing in this movie sucks. We also introduce Slipknot, the man who can climb anything, who is obviously going to die because he didn't get a video game introduction scene. Also, he's one of the few non-white characters, and we kill him almost immediately. We also introduce Katana, who also doesn't get a video game introduction scene, but she does get really clunky dialogue, because everyone gets really clunky dialogue.
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
They fly into the battle zone, and their helicopter is immediately brought down, but because everyone was wearing their seatbelts, everyone is okay. Always wear your seatbelts, kids. Captain Boomerang convinces Slipknot to escape, and Flag makes his head explode, thus proving the stakes of the movie, and killing a non-white character who got 2 lines of dialogue in the movie for no reason. Deadshot and Harley work together and try to convince the party to kill all of the Navy SEALs and escape, which seems reasonable. doesn't go all that well, but then Deadshot and Flag have a heart-to-heart about the weird monsters that are in the city, and there's a fight scene where everyone gets to show off their cool ability. Harley is shown to be hyper-competent with both melee weapons and with guns, meaning that she's probably a fighter. Killer Croc is a barbarian, Deadshot is a ranger. I don't know what Captain Boomerang is, but neither does the movie, so I guess that's okay. We also get the first instance of a Deadshot Macarena scene where he just stands around shooting like this the entire time, as opposed to doing any kind of cool trick shots or anything that you would expect Deadshot to do. We also get a scene revealing that the weird monsters are being created by Enchanty by making out with them. Remember, always discuss and be open with your sexual partners about everything, including your history, because you don't want to catch whatever the hell that is. Flag and Deadshot make a deal to get to the extraction point, and then we have a flashback scene that was not in the theatrical cut, with Harley chasing down the Joker and trying to convince him that she, totally likes him or whatever. The memory causes Harley to act out and diagnose her fellow party members, but Deadshot tells her to knock it off because it's not particularly well done, nor is it interesting. They finally get to the building that they were supposed to, and Harley takes an elevator up, leaving the rest of the party behind, and gets into a fight with another one of Enchanty's new friends. She does a rather impressive stunt, and I'm told that it was actually Margot Robbie doing this stunt without wires, of running up the wall and doing a flip. The party recollects, and more weird monsters come out from the ceiling, and there's another lackluster fight scene. No one ever needs to reload their guns, they all just have infinite ammo, which is a nice cheat. They all decide to protect Flag, who the monsters are all explicitly trying to either kidnap or kill. It's kind of unclear, because Deadshot figures if Flag dies, they all die, which is probably true because Amanda Waller is a psychopath. They continue the fight out on a balcony, and Deadshot gives Diablo a pep talk to encourage him to light everyone up, and it doesn't make any sense in the movie. We get another scene where Harleen Quinzel becomes Harley Quinn, but honestly, this scene is much better done in the Harley Quinn TV show. Just watch that instead. It's so much better than anything this movie does with either of these characters.
Dive in as Harleen Quinzel and rise as Harley Quinn. If you love me, then jump, and you'll be mine forever.
A dream come true, Puddin'.
It's revealed that the person who we are extracting is Amanda Waller, which I guess is supposed to be a surprise, but it's not. She murders the crew of FBI agents and whoever else that were helping her try and fight Enchantress, making sure that we know that she is just as bad or worse than the criminals that we're supposed to be rooting for. It's a little heavy-handed, but I guess it works. Joker finally comes to rescue Harley. She jumps onto the helicopter that he procured, and Waller tries to convince Deadshot to murder Harley for his freedom and his daughter. He doesn't do that, but it would seem consistent with the character that we've kind of been displaying so far. He pretends to miss, which, oddly enough, doesn't seem all that consistent, in my opinion, other than as a show-off to Amanda Waller that he can't control it. Amanda is annoyed and has the helicopter shot down, and it is implied that this kills the Joker off, but come on. they're not going to kill the most popular villain of all time. Waller gets on another helicopter, which immediately goes down. I'm really starting to think that this movie just hates helicopters for some reason. Harley rejoins the crew, but is obviously sad that her Puddin is dead. She puts on a brave face, and this is actually a pretty good character scene, which I had almost forgotten was possible at this point in the movie. Enchanty gets her heart back and kidnaps Waller, and then uses some brain ready magic to know what weak spots of the world there are, where she should attack. The rest of the party learns that Flag was a part of a failed operation, and that's what they're fighting. And the party fucks off and gets a drink. Harley serves them as bartender, which is weird, but okay. Then we get to learn Diablo's tragic backstory. TMCR. He killed his wife and kids after being a drug kingpin or a crime lord or something. And Flag reveals that Moon's magic dancing is what makes him really hard. The party all collects again and decides to do the title fight. They all get to the boss arena, and Enchanty is speaking English now for some reason, even though she hasn't done that ever before in the movie. And she makes everyone hallucinate a deep-seated desire in their hearts. Deadshot shoots and kills Batman. Harley gets a reasonable life with the Joker. Flag gets a real life with Dr. Moon. Diablo gets his murdered wife and kids back. We don't get to know what Captain Boomerang wants, because despite him still being in the movie for some reason, we just don't care about him. I don't think he gets another dialogue until like the last 2 minutes of the movie. It turns out that Chato escapes this fantasy because he still feels really guilty for murdering his family, which breaks the spell. They all walk up to Enchantress and start trying to fight him. Chato offers to solo them and says, "I lost one family. I'm not going to lose another." Which implies that at some point, these people became his family, which I really would have liked to see. That would have been really nice of the movie to do that. He transforms into a similar monster that the party is fighting. Some kind of Mesoamerican fire spirit or an Aztecan, I don't know. To be honest, I think that it's pretty confusing and the movie doesn't necessarily know. I'm certainly not an expert in Native American and Central American cultures. He sacrifices his life to blow up Enchanty's big brother, which is pretty neat. Enchanty gets all upsetty spaghetti about this and starts blowing up all of the military installations that she stole from Waller's mind. The Suicide Squad all try fighting her to no avail. She offers them another chance to join her, and Harley agrees, walking forward. She bows before Enchanty, before grabbing Katana's abandoned sword, and says,
"I like what you're selling, lady. There's just one teeny problem. You mess with my friends."
Deadshot shoots a bomb that is thrown into the magical blue circle-making machine, which destroys the movie rift that's in all superhero movies. They kill Enchanty, but a couple of moments later, Dr. Moon is brought back just fine, which is corny, but sure, fine, whatever. Waller comes out and threatens everyone to keep them behaving. Apparently, their reward for saving the world is 10 years off of their prison sentence, which is pretty stupid, honestly. Even the movie points this out. Captain Boomerang has apparently a triple life sentence, and 10 years just ain't worth shit to him. But he backs down. Deadshot is rewarded by allowing to see his daughter and teach her geometry. He's still technically in jail or whatever, he just gets a visit. Harley gets an espresso machine. And Killer Croc gets BET. We don't know what happens to Dr. Moon or Flag or Boomerang. We just don't get to know that, I guess. Another pop song is playing over this as well. Again, it's a good song, it just doesn't thematically tie into anything. The Joker breaks into the prison and kisses Harley, and it is presumed that they escape. The end credit scene reveals Bruce Wayne getting information from Waller about Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash, which it just looks like the same files that Lex Luthor had in Batman vs. Superman, so I don't know why this was necessary. She also implies that she knows that Bruce is Batman, which I guess makes sense, and he threatens her that if she doesn't shut down the Suicide Squad project, that he will do it for her.
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
Versus.
What has the galaxy ever done for you? Why would you want to save it? Because I'm one of the idiots who lives in it!
Guardians of the Galaxy was a surprise hit when it came out in 2014. No one really expected this movie with a talking raccoon and a tree played by Vin Diesel to succeed. But it was very successful. It caused a resurgence of 70s pop music and had the main theme even chart again. It was like most Marvel movies. It was fairly lighthearted, outside of the fact that there's a genocide occurring in the background, and had a lot of quips, but it resonated with people. Suicide Squad seems to be copying the formula of Guardians of the Galaxy on several fronts, but without realizing why it worked. It used a bunch of old pop music. It is about a bunch of misfits that are brought together through contrived circumstances, but who eventually learn to work together to stop an impending disaster. From a broad view, they're the same movie. But when you get into the details, one of these things works a lot better than the other thing. Part of the problem is that the songs in this movie are not diegetic. In Guardians of the Galaxy, they are all diegetic, which means that they exist in the movie. The reason that this makes a difference is because they were a part of Quill's personification. We are invested in the music because Quill is invested in the music. They are the last connection he has to his mother and to his planet. That integration is key to making this work. This is also true of Shrek. There's an excellent video by Sideways, which I will link in the video description if you're interested in the diegetic use of movie pop songs. Also, the songs are spaced a lot more healthily throughout Guardians. 7 songs in 20 minutes is not enough time to process that information. The introduction of these characters works a lot better in Guardians, mostly because we are given more time to ruminate on their personalities than we are in Suicide Squad. We spend time learning about everyone's personalities and their dynamics, how they interact with one another, sooner than 45 minutes into the film. Also, the cast is just smaller in Guardians. We have Quill, Rocket, Groot, Drax, and Gamora as the main crew, and there are some important side characters like Nebula and the Collector and that Nova agent played by the Step Brothers guy, who checks them into prison and later vouches for them when the threat arrives on planet. In Suicide Squad, we have Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, Enchantress, Diablo, Flag, Katana, Waller, Slipknot, the Nameless Navy SEALs, the Pentagon guys, Enchanti's brother, the Joker, and the sarcastic security guard. Not all of those are strictly as important, but that's 14 characters versus 8. That's a lot to deal with in a movie. There's a lot more people to keep track of, and because of that, none of them ever get fully developed. We spend some time developing Deadshot, which is great, and we spend some time developing Harley and Joker, but we get the world's clunkiest dialogue to establish Katana and Slipknot.
This is Katana. She's got my back. She can cut all you in half with one sword stroke, just like mowing the lawn. I would advise not getting killed by her. Her sword traps the souls of its victims.
Here comes Slipknot, the man who can climb anything. Wonderful.
And Diablo's backstory is seemingly an afterthought for the movie. It's not even introduced until an hour and a half into the movie. We never explore any of the potentially interesting parts of the movie, like Diablo's pacifism, or Deadshot's weird morality, or Flag's guilt throughout the movie, because there just isn't enough time in this already 2-hour plus movie, which is really kind of emblematic of the DCEU as a whole, trying to establish the equivalent of 2 or 3 movies worth of plot and character development into one, and hoping this Frankensteinian monstrosity left over works. This movie has some potentially interesting ideas, but it can't really explore any of them because they're too busy trying to introduce every character and a bunch of half-finished different concepts. Speaking of half-finished concepts,
I lost one family, I ain't gonna lose another one!
Last year, I watched all of Naruto. All 750 episodes, including the filler. It took forever. One of the biggest things that annoyed me at the time was the end of the initial Sasuke retrieval arc. Sasuke reveals that the reason he's cutting all ties with Konoha is because he's grown attached to Naruto. I didn't really ever feel that was justified in what we saw throughout the first 200 episodes. Sasuke always seems to actively loathe Naruto. Suicide Squad is the exact same way for me. At the end of the movie, it insists that Chato had grown attached to these other characters. In the movie, we've seen him rebuff them a few times, have an argument where he's forced to use his powers, and one heartfelt conversation. And these people are his new family? These are the people worth giving his life up for? Out of nowhere? Even in the heartfelt conversation, it was meant to underline the fact that they're bad people who don't deserve happiness. They can't be normal. Harley Quinn says as much right after his speech. And then, after Chato's sacrifice, Harley says,
I like what you're selling, lady. There's just one teeny problem. You mess with my friends.
Before cutting open Enchanti's chest and stealing her heart. But, to be fair, it is Margot Robbie. She stole all of our hearts. She's adorable. But throughout the movie, we see her manipulate people, act like a crazy person whenever it's convenient, and buck against authority whenever she wants to. She acts friendly to everyone, but this always seems to have an intention of helping her escape. She only comes back to them because she thinks her lover died and didn't know where else to go. So when exactly did they become friends and not tools or pieces of entertainment to her? The movie never establishes that she genuinely cares about them, or that Diablo does, or why Deadshot doesn't murder her. Maybe if we cut some of the flab in the movie, we could establish that, but we never do in the extended cut or the theatrical cut. This movie just leaves a lot on the cutting room floor and leaves a lot that should have been on the floor in. There are some people who really like Suicide Squad, and I can see why. It has an interesting aesthetic. Will Smith is a lot of fun. Margot Robbie does a really good job, and she does even better in Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn. Seriously, it's one of the best movies in the DCEU, and probably my second favorite version of this character. Go watch that. It can be funny, both intentionally and unintentionally, and it's great Hot Topic fodder. Shirts, belts, hoodies. It looks cool, and Invader Zim is now 20 years old, so Hot Topic needed new stuff. But thematically, this movie is a disaster. It is somehow the most cynical movie in the franchise. This includes the other movie that tried to introduce way too much, and the movie that questions whether or not saving children is a good thing. The pacing is garbage, the story is stupid, Enchanti is a boring, uncompelling villain because she literally has no characterization. The CGI and the ADR are both really bad at certain points, and the dialogue is clunky. Anyway, this movie isn't good. It could have been good, but right now it isn't. Maybe it'll get a director's cut where it's 4 hours long and we can have even more music videos that don't work. So the next movie I'm going to be reviewing is Crimson Peaks, which has a lot of good stuff in it, and has some interesting themes that it plays with. It has been brought to my attention that I'm not actually the first ever movie critic, and that's really unfortunate. But I have a plan. What I'm going to do is go back in time and put all of my videos out before anyone else has ever reviewed a movie. Then people will watch them and wonder why I'm referencing movies that don't exist yet, and have literally no context for what I'm talking about. It'll be great. But that'll take a while. Time travel is really expensive, and I'm broke. So, in the meantime, tell me what other movies you'd like me to review. I have a few that have been suggested to me, like Witch 2015 and Godzilla 1999, and one sadistic monster suggested that I review the Snyder Cut. But if I do that, I'd have to do both Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, which is 500 minutes of movie, and they're not even good movies. While you're down there, suggesting more movies to torment me, give this video a like, share it with your friends. If they don't want to watch it, bribe them. Offer them a cookie. A single cookie. Also subscribe. This is Sean, the future time-traveling movie critic, signing off.